Okay, if I see one more headline about the record industry being dead, I think I'm going to scream. Every day I see talking heads, podcasters, people on social media circulating this idea that the music business is dead, no one is making any money. This is why record labels are laying people off and dropping artists, that we're in a really dark time and the music business is struggling financially. Let me tell you, that is the furthest thing from the truth. The music business is doing very well, and I wanted to share some metrics with you. They might be a little triggering. I'm going to put that out there right now, but I think we need to unpack what the top earners in the music business are really making. And also some insights we can glean, which I think is going to explain a lot of the moves that the record business is making nowadays. Let's get into it. When I saw this article on Billboard, I knew I had to do a video about it. This is just too good. And I think this information is one of those things that music industry people talk about, but a lot of fans and a lot of just sort of like general enthusiasts of the music game don't know about. So I think this is going to be really, really, let's say, illuminating. So this is the article. Music's top money makers, the highest paid executives at publicly traded companies. Billboard looked at the top executives from publicly traded companies, and the reason that they did that is these are companies that have disclosed what their executive compensation is. We can see what the CEO makes, the CFO makes, all the people in the C-suite, and certain top executives. So from this list, we're going to see what Lucien Grainge makes, the CEO of Universal Music Group. We're going to see what people like Michael Rapino make, who's the head over at Live Nation, what executives are making at those kind of companies, Spotify, streaming services, satellite radio. I mean, this is a great, I think, a cross section of what entails the music business. So before we get into it, let me just issue a trigger warning. This is a lot of money. This is probably more money than most people are ever going to see in their lives, let alone amass in 1 year of doing a job. So I don't want you to get depressed. If anything, use this just as information, and hopefully it can maybe inspire you. But there's going to be a lot of zeros, a lot of big baller talk in the rest of this video, and I don't want anyone to feel bad for themselves because we are talking about executive compensation, which I think across the board, whether you're in the music business or any other industry, is kind of insane right now. Like, the people at the top are making a lot of money. So I just want you to brace yourself as we get into these numbers. So Lucien Grainge comes in at number 1 as the highest paid executive in the music business. He comes in at over $150 million. As you know, Lucien Grainge is the head of Universal Music Group. This is the biggest record label group in the music industry. I actually talked a bit about Lucien Grainge in my video about Drake and his reported $400 million deal with Republic Records. So if you want some background on Lucien, go check out that video. What's kind of crazy is what a big gap there is between Lucien and the rest of the people on this list. The next person on the list is James Dolan. For my fellow New Yorkers, you know James Dolan because of the Knicks, but James Dolan comes in at $25.6 million, and he's the head of both Madison Square Garden Entertainment as well as Sphere Entertainment. And rounding up the top 3 is Michael Rapino from Live Nation. He pulled in over $23 million. But it's pretty insane seeing where Lucien Grainge's compensation is compared to the rest of this list. Now, what else can we take away looking at these like astronomical numbers? One interesting thing is the list is all white men. So no one of color, no women. In fact, the only woman who shows up is the head of Sirius, and that's in a separate list that only looks at cash compensation. The list that we're talking about also includes stocks, other forms of compensation beyond just cash. But it's kind of sad. I mean, this list is very homogenous and it shows you who's in charge in the music industry. Another really interesting observation is how much of compensation comes from cash versus from stock and other options. Now, why is this relevant to us? I'm going to get into it. If you look at Lucien Grainge's compensation, the vast majority is coming from stock. This is not uncommon. Oftentimes, CEOs, their compensation packages are contingent on how they perform. In other words, you're going to get a base level of pay, but if your company does really well, if your bottom line ends up going up, if the stock price does well, we're going to then give you more compensation that's contingent on that. So that means performance is really important to these executives. If you watch my recent video about the music industry layoffs and specifically what's going on at Warner Music Group and Atlantic Records, so many of my contemporaries are just hyper focused on these layoffs and these kind of conspiracy theories of what could be causing them. And if you watch my video, you see that my hypothesis is we got to look at the money. When it comes to money, those Atlantic Records layoffs and the larger Warner layoffs saved that money over $260 million. So just remember what I said. If we're saving that amount of money, the stock price immediately went up. Imagine what the compensation is going to be for Robert Kyncl, who's the CEO of Warner. Of course, it's going to go up. No matter what, this is still the music business. And the business aspect, although it gets overlooked often, it's important, if not more important, for a lot of these companies. One point I want to make is Billboard reports when they were putting together this list, they were only focused on publicly traded companies. So they're culling this list based upon financial reports and what's already available in the public space. For companies that are private, or even some of these companies that will only show certain executives' compensation, we don't know what other people are making. It's very feasible that, just for example, someone like Monty and Avery Lippman over at Republic Records, I'm pretty sure they should be on this list. Like, I don't have any hard and fast proof, but I could see where the universal filings do not show their individual compensations. So we are working with limited data, so that is just something to think about. But yeah, I mean, when I look at a list like this, it really just boggles my mind because as a creative and someone in the trenches every day, I'm constantly being told, like, yeah, we don't got the budget for this, or, given the current landscape, we can't pay for that. You're too expensive. Like, these are things that you hear over and over as a creative on any level, as an artist, as a writer, as a journalist, as an on-air host. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've been told, well, we just don't have the money. What it actually means is we just don't have the money for that. We have money. As you can see with all of this executive compensation, and again, that's just one metric of an industry's health. Like, we could just do a whole video breaking down like a record label's like financial health if you guys want that. But this is just one metric, but it's a powerful metric, and this is a public facing metric. So imagine a music industry that wants to pay Lucien Grainge over $150 million. Does that sound like an industry that's failing? Does that sound like an industry that needs discounts? It needs the friend discount, the homie discount? I don't think so. This sounds like a very thriving industry where people at the top are being compensated incredibly handsomely. So there you have it. The music business is alive and well and swimming in money, depending on who you ask. But I just thought this was an interesting list that came out. And I think it's so important, especially when we're making these sort of broad generalizations of the music business is over or hip hop is dead. Like, what does that really mean? And to go into the metrics, go into what's actually the bottom line, because the business part of this conversation is so important. So I hope I didn't scare anyone. I hope you're not, punching the air. I hope you're not, hating yourself right now. For all of my fellow colleagues, just take a breath and know that there is money out there. Let's have an abundance mindset, and hopefully we can manifest some of this wealth and some of these millions for you and me. But let me know what you think about this. Do you think that executives in the music business are being compensated fairly? Are they being overpaid, underpaid? What are some changes you'd like to see to this list? I would love to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments.